I learned a lot about getting a script financed in this current Hollywood market. This was very eye-opening for me in terms of that and bringing up the fact that they are looking to YouTubers. I just want to do it in a way that A, protects my IP and ensures that someone can't just take my idea and then run to Hollywood. Yesterday, I did a really poor job of getting ready to go network. So this morning, we're going to force ourselves to go outside, meet some people. Because if the goal is to transition fully into being a writer, whether it's a cultural editor and also a creative writer within the Hollywood industry, you gotta meet face to face with people. And so there's a film festival going on right now. There's a workshop happening around 10 a.m. and every place takes at least an hour to get to. So anyway, I'm gonna drink my coffee. I already had my breakfast. Did my workout routine this morning, everything. By the way, leave a comment below if you would want to see my morning routine. But yeah, we're gonna have some coffee, wake ourselves up, and we're gonna force ourselves to go network with people. And then when we come back, we're gonna try to be as productive as possible because I have so many things to record, so many goals that I've set for myself, and it's already Q3, and I feel like this year is going by like lightning, and I'm kind of anxious about if I'm actually moving in the direction that I need to be moving with a lot of my goals that I have for more independence, and then doing the things that I actually love. All right, enough yapping. Follow me.
But that being said, the experience of the scheme and the reliability and the reputation of the scheme is also super important for us. There are many new schemes that are being created everywhere around the globe. Very, let's say, good intentions, opportunities, but if you don't have a team on the ground that knows what they're doing and that are able to process a film quickly, the value is reduced for us.
Yes, every project means script plus what comes with it, the level of director, the level of cast. This is all a very important exercise that has to be done individually per project. So what we usually do is we read the script, we digest it, we discuss it, we think about what's the genre. And the comp titles it's an art form to find the right comps, because sometimes you do not have a direct comp titles. It's not easy to find. So you have to be a little creative in the thinking, because you need to think, okay, what are the similar budget levels? What is a similar type of director with the same prestige or the same commercial appeal? What are the similar levels of cast? So it's a very, very important exercise that has to be done by people with a lot of nuanced thinking. It's not very straightforward.
I'm still light skinned. That's really shocking. I could have sworn I got a tan, but I think I got a tan on my legs, yeah, I definitely got a tan on my legs. Anyway, anytime I go out, I always have to get the crispy McDonald's apple pie. This thing is like crack, and I'm so hungry right now. I think they're gonna restart it in the United States. I'm not sure. Look at this, look at this. I love it. Anyway, I was gonna make a salad, but I am too hungry for that. And so glad that I took the ferry to come home, because I'm home a lot earlier than I expected. Even though it's 1 o'clock now and I left at like 10 a.m. Anyway, that's not what I came here to talk about. The event. I learned a lot. I'm not going to decompress it right now because I need to eat. But I'm going to come back on camera and I'm going to tell you everything that I learned about getting a script financed right now in this current Hollywood market. It was very, very insightful. the networking didn't happen as it should have happened. I mean, this lady was really nice to give me a front row seat, but then like she just immediately started talking to somebody else. And I wanted to thank her, but couldn't. And then as I was walking past, I saw another black woman. She said she was, I think I heard her say she was Nigerian, but I was already like ahead. And I was like, oh, this could be looking awkward if I try to turn around and say, hey, did you say you're Nigerian? And she did not say that. I don't know. I overthink these things. And I don't want to look like a weirdo in front of industry folk. But anyway, I'm really good at writing an email that makes people say, hey, let's talk. So there's the moderator that I'm going to email for sure, because he was really cool and he's a professor, I think, in the UK. And I really want to talk to him about some of the things he said about AI, which I'll get into in a second. And then there was like two other producers, there are two other financiers, I should really say, who were women. And I think I could reach out to them and they would be pretty open to talking to me. So that would be the networking, because I have a lot of questions. And again, that was a really, really good industry event. So yeah, let me go eat and then I'm going to come back and summarize all that I learned. Okay, so here's the recap, and I actually took notes. So one of the most important takeaways that I got from this was that you need to do it. You need to just get started on your own. And I don't mean because there's not financing out there for new creators or people who are new to the Hollywood scene. But they brought up the back rooms and obsession numbers, right? And everybody's been talking about like how, you know, out of the box that situation was with both of those films, right? Because these were people who were independent creators who got picked up by Hollywood. And it was less about the fact that they already had a following on YouTube and that made them marketable. It was more so that you are going to be in more control of testing your material out and seeing if there's a viable audience for it if you start on your own, rather than trying to wait for the Hollywood machine to get on the bandwagon, right? So I don't think you need like a huge YouTube following or a huge social media following in order to do this method. I do think you need to find a way to first figure out who your audience, like search for them out there, and do it incrementally. I actually really like that and appreciate that, because I feel like that actually takes more pressure off of me to feel as if I can do the Hollywood speak, like when I'm going in and pitching, that I don't need to feel like I need to know exactly the language to speak in those rooms to be taken seriously, although I'm going to get to that in a second because they did talk about that as well. I think what speaks is money, and potential speaks louder than any kind of vocabulary that you can master about what it means to be a creator in Hollywood, right? So when they were bringing up the back rooms and obsession numbers, the main point that they were actually trying to drive home is that Hollywood is so invested in just reinventing the wheel is what I always say, is like just doing the same thing over and over again that seems safe and guaranteed to make money, that it actually is hurting them in the end. And they brought the Jason, I think his name is Jason Statham, right? The guy that does all the action films. They were like, yeah, I mean, it should be like a no-brainer, right? It should be a hit run because he's done all of these numbers in the past. And they were like, recently, his latest action film was a flop. So they just wasted money on trying to play it safe. And so Hollywood is realizing now that no, there's other people out there who are taking more risk and experimenting. And that's where I think as a new writer that I'm interested in exploring first, and like just putting myself out there and doing something that I don't see normally in Hollywood in terms of my writing, and then finding the audience out there. And more so just for me having proof of concept and being able to make a strong argument for why I am invested in this story being brought to a wider audience. Now, these people who were on the panel seemed like they were much more interested in. So remember we were talking about how Hollywood is more attractive to high concept screenplays. High concept means something that you can put on a billboard and people immediately recognize from the artwork, from the title, from the way the characters are positioned, what they're going to get from a kind of film like this. So think your major blockbusters are like thrillers, action films, superhero films, etc. Those are high concept films. I feel less pressured to make something that is high concept, even though these people who are on the panel are the type of people who are more attracted to that, because they also said that they realize that they are also putting themselves in a, what do you call it, in a narrow space where they're just focusing on things that, again, it's like recreating the wheel rather than opening themselves up to more interesting concepts and more interesting ideas so they don't bore the audience or just feed the audience like slop, right? So this was very eye-opening for me in terms of that, and bringing up the fact that they are looking to YouTubers, they are looking to smaller quote unquote content creators or smaller creators to see what next would move the needle. So I'm more than happy to start there and build and work my way up. I just want to do it in a way that protects my IP, my intellectual property, that means, and ensures that someone can't just take my idea and then run to Hollywood after I've done all the work to try to prove the concept. So how can I build it from the ground up now and as a smaller creator and still make it profitable for me, and quickly then turn it around to become a blockbuster later on, before, and also make sure that nobody gets ahead of me in that rat race, which is it's a fine line, and it's something that is a very sensitive topic to me as a Black woman, especially because I just feel like our ideas are not valued when it's coming out of our mouths, when it's only coming out of somebody else's mouth. So that's the part that I need to like just learn how to protect myself and partner with the right people, which is low-key kind of the reason why I was happy I didn't do too much networking, because sometimes I feel like I'm too trustworthy. And so you share these ideas with people that you're meeting for the first time. You don't know their intention. You don't know if you can have their word that they're not going to just take what you said to them in a casual setting and run with it. So low-key, I'm like, sometimes when I put myself in those positions, I shoot myself in the foot by talking too much and oversharing. So I want to be very intentional about who I'm bringing around me as I'm starting to build this plan out. I still do talk to Dahili. I actually just spoke to her yesterday. So that might be part of this vlog series, or this vlog episode that I'm doing. But working on building the audience from the ground up is actually more than enough for me right now. And I think I definitely could do that by introducing it first as a book, right, series, but just building up those skills in the interim of how to transcribe book text to screenplay text, because it's a totally different kind of formatting that I'm learning, and it's a different way of thinking. You have to be able to visualize what's on the paper as you're writing it as a screenplay. Whereas in a book, yes, you have to be able to visualize it, but you can do a lot more in terms of like writing out prose and not be too verbose. Whereas with the screenplay, it needs to be much tighter. So it's a totally different writing skill, which I'm still going to keep practicing on the side, but I do want to start introducing the concept of my eventual screenplay as a book first. I think that's going to be a way to build up the audience, because I don't know if YouTube is going to be as successful for me based on the kind of thing that I'm trying to introduce, but we shall see, we shall see. And then let's just take a step back. Like, that's another thing that I really want you to take away from this, is that be prepared to go into rooms, not necessarily knowing all the language of Hollywood, but definitely knowing the language of financing in Hollywood. People are going to be less likely to take advantage of you and more likely to take you seriously if you know how to discuss all the things that they were discussing here in this meeting, which is actually makes me happy that I missed my last meeting, because this one was much more valuable to me. I feel like with the networking across the different geographies, which was the other workshop, I can figure out how to do that, how to collaborate and find partners and stuff like that. But the language of financing, I feel like my vocabulary is like umpteenth levels higher because I went to this workshop. So more than anything, more than being able to understand, more than being able to explain the concept of your piece of work, whether it's a screenplay, what have you, make sure you're able to explain how the finances is going to work. How are these investors going to get their money back? That's what they care about. And yes, they did talk about hiring a sales agent, which is another thing that I'm going to go into in a minute. They did talk about hiring a sales agent who would be that person negotiating on your behalf. but you should also be able to know the kind of things that the sales agent should be saying in those meetings, so you know that you're partnering with the right person, and that, again, you're going to be taken seriously because you know your shit. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is you should source financing based on the stage of your production. So I think that's kind of obvious, but it was just good to have that reinforced. So they were talking a lot about these different schemes that you can get funding either through the government or through investors or private funding. And I do think that I'm at the stage in terms of like how the type of piece that I'm working on, that there would be some more public philanthropic spaces that'll be willing to pay for it, because it's artsy. It also has like a lens of like political commentary, social commentary, that I think a public financing scheme would want to support. Also, I'm a underrepresented creator in this space, so I can take advantage of that. And I am definitely in the very, very early stages. I mean, we're still writing the book, let alone writing the screenplay, right? Although I did, so far I did translate the first chapter of my book into the first scene of my eventual screenplay. So that was fun. But yeah, just know that if you're at a certain stage of your production, don't immediately say, I need to talk to like the richest person in the room, or I need to find all these rich people who want to invest in the next hit blockbuster movie. Take your time. Again, just protecting your IP along the way. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. Based on where you are at your stage of funding, or sorry, your stage of production, source funding appropriately. All right. I want to look up licensing fees for streamers, because they were saying that another thing that financiers are concerned about is that normally when you would have a movie come out in theaters, you would, make significant margins that way, but then the income or the profit continued to grow exponentially when you licensed it out to television channels, and that now it's being chopped not even in half, like maybe 3/4 of the way, because streaming is not paying as much as it would if you were licensing it again to like terrestrial TV or broadcast TV. So because the licensing fees are a lot less when you're licensing to streamers. Keep that in mind. Like, you have to be able to talk numbers to people. How is this going to get them their money back? So think about how you can reduce the cost of production as much as possible from the get-go, so that you're not asking for too much. And then also just make sure you're not sacrificing quality when you're asking for less. So I would definitely look up licensing fees for streaming once your product goes out of the theaters and is onto Netflix or anything like that. How much is it going to cost or how much are you going to make, and how much is that going to increase the return on investment that investors are going to get? AI. I did say I wanted to talk about it, and that's the last thing I'll talk about in terms of the recap. So someone asked the question about how are financiers in Hollywood using AI, and the answer was they are not. And I was so happy to hear that. It is refreshing to hear from major Hollywood execs major Hollywood execs on the financing side, at least, that they are human first, because they were like, there's no way that a computer or a line of code is going to know how an audience, a human being, is going to feel emotionally watching something on the screen. The only way for you to gauge that is if you, the human, reads the script and notices the same feeling as well as you're reading it. And I was like, yes. Yes, it takes more time, it takes more labor and effort, and that's why you just have to be really on your game in terms of the way you're writing. So invest in your writing skills right now, take workshops, ask people to read your script and get feedback from people whose opinion you trust in high regard. That's why, again, I'm still talking with Dahili. She's actually looking over my script right now. Have people who know what they're doing, who have done this before, and are willing to invest the time in reading your stuff and giving you critical feedback before you get to that level. It should be like the 20th minimum iteration of what you wrote
before you bring it to that level of pitching into that kind of boardroom, right? Because again, they know that it's labor intensive to take the time to not use AI and to actually read it as a human being and see if it will work for them. And so you need to hook them as soon as possible. They have too many scripts on their tables to read. Like everybody's trying to break into Hollywood, right? So that was refreshing. Number one, that a human is actually going to be reading my script, not computers. But then also two, makes me have to step my game up really in my writing and make sure that when they read that first 5 pages or so, that they are hooked and they are invested and they want to know more about this world that I'm building and who's in it, right? And I do think I have that with my first page. Now, I think I have it because of the beta readers. I think I have it because of the beta readers that were reading my novel. Everybody said that the first chapter was the most exciting, and that's why I turned the first chapter into the first scene or the first act. No, the first scene in the first act of my screenplay. But now I'm like nervous because the rest of the story kind of like dies down a bit. The action, or like not the action, the drama. They weren't as excited as I thought they would be about it because it's a little bit more heady. It's like a little bit more like, not nuanced, but it's like, it's a little bit more everyday kind of drama, but everyday drama that is examined under a critical lens of being a Black woman in the dating world. So it's not like very, I don't know how to describe it. The drama is not dialed up for the sake of just creating moments and creating hysteria. It's very subtle how I'm introducing the larger ideas or issues that I'm trying to explore with my plot. Audiences might not have the patience for that. At least the people who have read my initial manuscript seemed to not really be as engaged with it. And so I wonder how that's going to translate into film. So that's something that I'm going to challenge myself to work on in the next week or so as I continue to revise and revise and revise. With romance, I guess people do want it to be like extremely dramatic, but then I'm also trying to make it a little bit more grounded as well so that we can examine some real like serious themes. But again, for the sake of like my first, if this is going to be my first ever screenplay that I'm bringing to the table, and I want people to be really caught off guard and excited about it immediately, I am going to have to add a little bit more hyperbole, if that's what you want to call it, to the piece. And so I'm going to challenge myself to do that and figure out how I can do it in a way that doesn't feel chaotic and doesn't feel forced, that still feels authentic. And yeah, I'm just be happy that the people who are interested in potentially financing your future blockbuster are not using AI to read the script and examine it. Praise God. They actually want to read it themselves. So that's good. That's always good to know. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about this feedback. Let me know if you want more insights like this about, like, again, what I'm learning, how I'm envisioning this book translating into something bigger than just the pages in a novel. And I would love to hear about your journey. What are you guys writing? You know, what topics are you trying to explore? And are you confident that you'll find somebody who's willing to invest in it and make it become a reality? I'm really, really excited to hear from you guys.